Well guys, we have one of the most unique videos that I've ever uploaded on my fishing channel coming at you today. Now this is a video where my old Kung Fu teacher, Sifu Kleppe, asked me if I would take him and his son fishing. Well, fishing was really challenging. I just could not put it together on a day that I really needed to. I just could not get the fish in the boat. So you've got that to look forward to in this video. But what I wanted to say is that Sifu has some amazing knowledge on internal healing and breath work, using all of the things that he's learned in Kung Fu over the years. And he's studied with some of the absolute masters of Chinese martial arts in China. And so I decided to put that on this video. It's much different than what I normally put on a fishing video, but here we go.
High, low, down, up, here, and back.
That's all we got to do. But doing that was my favorite part of the week. Not the day, the whole week. Pretty sure this is the first time I've ever had a broadsword on the boat with me or any kind of martial art weapon.
Like I said, you would regret it if you didn't.
Right? I mean, well, I'll just strap it to the rod storage here, I guess. A little better.
Feeling good.
Oh, I skill. Oh, it's a little bass. Look at this. Oh, look at that. It's a bass. Now, hopefully we get a 5-pounder like this today. But I got to get a picture of you with this, even though it's a baby. You know that, right? I mean, what if things go really bad and nothing else happens today? We at least have to have this fish.
That's a good reason not to have it. So that bad.
Not skunked.
Wow.
You're not skunked.
Deal with people who, I love them all.
This is what we're dealing with down there, guys.
Yeah.
We'll have to move soon. Definitely. It was a weed, you think?
No, it was a fish.
A fish, okay. So hit it. When a fish hits this, the fish doesn't, oh, you got one? They're biting it, hey?
And then all of a sudden,
So a fish hits this, it'll just hit it and stop. You might feel a little movement or something.
yeah.
So you're in charge of setting the hook, right?
Let it sit.
Yeah, let it sit. They'll pick it up when it's sitting sometimes. Yeah, I got one. Oh, I missed it. Oh, wait. First fish of the day. This only took hours.
No, this is beautiful.
Now, I have a friend. His name is Mike. He mounts fish. We have to take that to him and have it mounted today for the memories.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, let's get out of the wind, guys. Does that sound good? All right, there's an upgrade right there. Got to get real close.
Yeah.
That's an upgrade. That's two. That's two in the boat.
Fingers in there though. Oh, plastic hand. That one.
All right, guys. I got a giant on.
Put a Barbie doll next to it.
It's coming to the boat. Get the gaff. So right now I'm winning for, hold on, come here. I'm winning for smallest fish. There we go. Sifu says I should just get little plastic hands, which my son has these little plastic hands that he loves. Look at that fish right there, guys.
Yeah.
Hold it real close. Take your time with that. We might need a net on this one. Oh, jeez. Now let it. Oh my. Look at that, you guys. I thought for sure we were about to net a good fish. You know what, though? If this would have been a guide trip, I'd be like, shoot, I can't charge these guys today. So a little bit. Oh, it's a little perch. All right, got a little perch. Sifu has a little baby perch. We just gotta find. We got.
Too big though to...
Jeez, let go of the worm. Here, I'll reworm you with the same worm. All right, guys. So I'm definitely winning for smallest fish. I want to show you guys this. I've never even seen this before. Look at this.
Geez.
It's a bass, a largemouth bass. So this is supposed to be, somewhere between 3 and 5 pounds, but it's not even.
It's 3 to 5 ounces.
It's dead. That's not an ounce. I don't even know if that's a quart. All right, guys, I'm gonna move us. Sorry, I got one more spot down the lake to try that here. Oh, I think we're gonna go try to catch lake trout. Try to throw a Hail Mary. I don't know what else to do. I don't think so. It's hard to tell how big it is because this is a light rod. It's a small smallmouth bass. This line is too light for this fish. Come here, buddy. Come here. There we go. Well, hey, I got biggest fish of the day.
Thank you. Yeah.
Smallmouth bass. The small one, but I mean, I saw them on the live scope, so there's a bunch down there. So let's. I'm gonna bring my food out. Actually, I'm gonna eat one of your sandwiches. You guys said you brought a few sandwiches?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I brought like the worst sandwich. They're all the same. Okay, cool, nice. Ooh, you even brought the mayo. The worst part is when you freaking forget the mayo. And if you put it on ahead of time, the sandwich gets all soggy, you know? All right, you guys, so we stopped at a spot without a lot of wind, so we're gonna do the fish report. Oof. Oof. That's the word of the day. Oof. How much? All right, Sifu. Want to chat while we're trying to catch a fish?
Sure.
Fishing's been tough, guys. By the way, it's. I mean, it's fun, but it's like I expected to be a little easier today. So you're doing okay though, even though fishing's been a little challenging.
It's great. Just being out here is great. So, yeah. Beautiful.
So I trained with Sifu Steve Kleppe here. He was my first kung fu teacher. And at the time that I trained, I was really into like mixed martial arts and jiu-jitsu and kickboxing, and I always wanted to spar and train really hard. And he always wanted to show me like breath work and breathing technique. And it's helped me tremendously through my life. So you want to talk about that a little bit?
Sure. Let me start with explanations that kind of evolve from Taoism as a philosophy and as a practice, which is one of the bases of Kung Fu. And in essence, the human body is a biochemical factory, and everything we take into it, everything we eat, drink, and breathe is potential chemical energy. Energy can't be created or destroyed, changes shape and form. So we can have fossils that have become fuel that can be mined, can be used to change into heat, to boil water, to make steam, to turn turbines, to produce electricity. Comes to our homes, our businesses. It's changed at the outlets into the appliances to give us light, sound, all kinds of things. But the energy's constantly changing from one shape or form. But you can't create it, you can't destroy it. Well, when we take these things into our system, everything we eat, drink, and breathe, that's potential chemical energy. And that chemical energy, when it changes, has side benefits as well. So for instance, when this chemical change takes place, one of the energies formed is heat. That's why we have a body temperature that's higher than the ambient temperature around us. Another one, we have our movement. We're able to move. The kinetic energy that we have is as a result of those chemical changes and that energy we take into our system. But another byproduct of that is electricity. It's the movement of electrons. And just as those electrons move through the walls of our homes, for instance, in circuits, and then come to those outlets and are utilized by appliances, it's very much the same within us. Those electrical currents flow through pathways within our body. The Chinese referred to those as channels, vessels, meridians, but there are very specific paths. And they are connected to different systems within the body, different organ systems. So, for instance, there's 12 corresponding energy channels of liver, lungs, spleen, kidneys, stomach, small intestines, large intestines, etc. And each of them has to have that flow of energy through you to it to operationalize it. So let's say the heart is an example. Your heart is a muscle, pumping 24/7. But what causes it to pump is a small electrical discharge, which is why when you have trouble with the heart, for instance, if it stops, you can sometimes use the defibrillators to just kind of jolt it back into operation. You can have a pacemaker installed that does that artificial stimulation repeatedly to keep the heart functioning. So we need that energy flowing through our body. The goal initially of the Taoist practices is to learn to live a longer, healthier, happy life, to increase the quantity and the quality of that energy that flows through our body. When everything is in balance, there's health. Everything works well. But just living, it creates an imbalance within us. And so we're in a constant state of trying to find balance. When it gets out of balance sufficiently, that's when we have illness and difficulties. And if not remediated, it can become much worse. So the Chinese came up with 5 different ways to work at helping to remediate that energy balance within. The first obvious is diet. Because if everything you eat is the potential chemical energy and you're eating nothing but junk food, if you drink nothing but other than water, maybe alcohol or whatever, too much soda, the quality of those products that you take in, it's not going to produce the greatest quality.
Wait a second. So I got a little problem with this. The munchies and junk food, not so good for kung fu and for life overall health.
Yeah, I know.
All right, continue.
Yeah. That's probably the most difficult for most of us. Even if we think we're eating healthy, in our culture today, it's hard to find food that actually doesn't have so many preservatives in it and other chemicals and components that actually makes it a little less than a proper product. So everything we eat. The second means by which that they try to balance that energy is with herbs. And we're not talking about herbs like a vitamin, where every day you take this vitamin and it's designed then to help provide for a lack of balance or something missing in your system. These herbs are specifically used and designed to remediate an imbalance in a particular way. So, for instance, if you have a cold, you might take a specific herbal formula. If you catch that cold after you've already got it and you didn't manage to catch it soon enough, there's a different herbal formula. So you take these different herbal formulas and you take them until those symptoms, until that imbalance is gone, and then you stop. There are also ones that you can take preventative, like astragalus tea a lot of people drink because it helps to boost that immune system, as an example. So we have what you eat, and then we have herbs. Another means by which we balance it is acupressure. There are, along these meridians, these channels within the body, points that you can massage in certain ways that are going to help to rebalance that energy flow within you.
Wait a second. Okay, hold up. I got a question.
Okay.
So, because I have a fishing channel, we're going to do some kung fu, but it's fishing.
Okay.
So, like, fishermen have a lot of issues with wrists and forearms and things like that. Do you have any acupressure techniques we could do to help alleviate some of that issues we have with our hands and our wrists and things?
Well, a lot of times when you have a problem physically as such, as sounds like you are describing, specifically related to a particular activity. Same can be said for like someone who golfs, plays tennis, baseball, whatever, where you're using relatively the same muscles over and over and over again repeatedly, and there isn't a counterbalance that you're experiencing. So using your hand in the same way over and over again is likely to create difficulties for you. Just like somebody who's on a computer has their hands constantly moving like this, and they end up with what we refer to as maybe carpal tunnel, or over time you end up with arthritis or rheumatism or something. The idea is you, on the simplest of levels, you want to try to get a motion in there that helps to counter that motion. So if you're only doing something like this, then trying to get a movement that will help to balance those movements around and not maintain only that one specific repeated motion that over time is going to cause problems. So that's one thing.
So now I'm just going to move the boat slightly because Rob in the back.
Hey, how we doing?
There's still a chance for him to catch a fish that's not this big, so we're just going to move slightly and then we're going to continue our conversation.
How big did you say it was?
I mean, you saw it. You guys saw it. Yeah. You know. Okay, hold on. And I know we're going to have like the wind. We got the trolling motor noise, but just bear with us. Here we go.
So anyway, diet is important. the use of herbs is important. Acupressure, knowing where along those meridians there are specific points that you can massage, and in massaging you have to know which points in particular to open up the flow of that energy. You have to know the amount of pressure, sometimes the angle of the pressure and so forth, the combination of points that need to be massaged together in order to get the desired effect. But you can do this massage to bring back that balance of energy within you. The next is acupuncture, and many are familiar with acupuncture today. It's basically the same concept as the acupressure, except there are sometimes too many points that need to simultaneously be addressed, and you can't as easily do that massaging. Or you want to insert the needles and then leave that in for a period of time to help to rebalance. As a matter of fact, today it's not unusual for a lot of acupuncturists to use electricity, where they will put a needle in at one point and a needle in at another, and in essence those two needles are like the anodes on a battery, and while they are installed there's electricity that they will run through that pathway from one needle to the other. So the use of acupuncture. The last though is exercise. And yes, a lot of the exercise, particularly in this country when we think of exercise, is exercise that works muscles, bones, tendons, ligaments, the aerobic system and so forth. But the energies that we're talking about, the exercise that we're talking about here, is more often referred to as Qigong. Qi is an internal energy, that electrical energy, if you will, that life force that flows through our body. Gong is like exercise. It's the exercise that you're doing to move that energy, to create that energy, to balance that energy within you. The basis of that is breathing. The basis of almost all of this is breathing. If you think about what is most substantial and necessary for a human being to exist, it is breathing. You can do without food for a period of time. You can do without water for a period of time. You can't go very long without breathing. So breathing is extremely important. When we have any kind of emotion going on within us, it is affecting the breath. When we are sad, when we are hurt, when we're in pain, when we're happy, when we're excited, any of these things affect the breathing.
Oh, Rob's got a good one. Sorry.
Oh, it's a little guy.
Oh, I thought it was a good one.
But hey,
But it is a fish, and it
that's
was
the way to do
live
this.
while we were.
yeah, live shot. There we
mean,
go. Look at the size of this guy.
This
What'd you
is
get?
this is what's been happening all day. But let's continue with our life lesson. Here we go.
So breathing is extremely important. As a matter of fact, and I'm going to try not to get too much in depth about a lot of this, but in essence, one way of kind of summarizing it is the first thing we work with breathing is learning to breathe to the abdomen. Most children, you look at animals, pets in nature, wherever, and when you see them breathe, their abdomen expands and contracts. You watch most humans breathe, and as they get older, their breath is much more in the upper diaphragm. If you watch your children, if you watch babies breathe, again, you get that abdominal movement much more. But again, as we get older, we breathe much more shallow and to the chest. So learning once again to breathe abdominally. In the world today, in our culture in particular, you see that take place more frequently with singers. In order to project their voice, they have to have a deeper breath drawn down into the lower abdomen before they can project that. People who play the wind instruments, same thing. You have to learn to breathe abdominally. But most of us, again, breathe shallow and to the chest. So learning to breathe abdominally. You need to practice that abdominal breathing until it becomes instinctive and reflexive. So we say initially that the mind and breath need to become one. You need to be relaxed. You should be in a particular kind of relaxed posture, and there are a couple of different ones that you can utilize. But in that posture, you start by listening to your breath, experiencing yourself breathe, feeling yourself breathe. Each inhalation, each exhalation. Become one with that breathing. And then your first attempt with that is to balance the time that it takes to inhale with the time that it takes to exhale. And that usually is out of balance to begin with for most human beings as well. So relaxing the breath and balancing the breathing. After mind and breath, becoming one, mind leads the breath. So now you learn to breathe to that abdomen, so that when you inhale, when you exhale, the only physical movement that needs to take place is that abdominal cavity expanding and contracting. You don't have the chest expanding and contracting. You don't have muscles interacting all along the body, the shoulders and so on. It's just that lower abdomen expanding and contracting. When that is taking place, then it is said that your life force is being developed in your lower abdomen itself. There is what is called the lower cinnabar field, the lower dantian or energy center. It is that place where the energies from all that you take into your system, everything you eat, drink, and breathe, mixes with the natural essence that you have within your body, Jing, and the two of them combined will form Qi, that life force. And that life force is what now flows through your body to help maintain that balance. The next step from that in Qigong practice is to open what we call the small microcosmic pathway. There is a path, channels, that run up the back, over the top of the head to the top of the mouth, and then run from the mouth down to the base of the torso. It becomes a complete circle, a complete cycle, if you will. Up the back, that's the governing cycle, Duma. Down the front, that's the conception channel, Renma. And you mindfully are going to move that Qi, that energy, which you learn to become at one with enough to actually lead, move within your body. You learn to move that along that pathway. Along that pathway, there are what we call gates. Again, like the acupoints or the acupressure points, these are places where there's likely to be a bit of restriction to that flow of energy. Consequently, we start that energy at the base of our torso and we move it slowly to the tip of the tailbone. And when we inhale and have that energy at the tip of the tailbone, we relax, and as we're exhaling, we work to eliminating all stress, tension, and pressure in that lower area. Am I doing too much talking here?
No,
we got another giant.
Another monster.
Oh, no, you're doing fine, Sifu.
Okay, so we opened that gate. I refer to that as kind of like thinking that there's like a tube, like in an aquarium. You have one of those plastic tubes that the air flows through. But if you squeeze it in any one point, you restrict the flow. So that flow may be moving smoothly and evenly and fluidly, but then when you come to one of those points where you're squeezing it, it has to use energy and it's slowed down to get through and past that point. So that's what these gates do. They offer resistance along the way. And I refer to it as kind of like water and ice. So it's like this energy, this warm energy is being brought up to this point, and when it gets to this point, it has to be slowed down. It's got to do work to overcome it. So you inhale, bringing that energy up, and then you relax that area as you exhale, relaxing all the stress, the tension, anything you can mindfully let go in that particular area. When you finish that exhalation, you go back down to the base of the torso, and as you inhale, you bring that pearl of life, that energy back up to that gate. As you bring that up, each time it tends to kind of melt that energy. It reduces that stress, that tension, that energy that is restricting that flow. And as you continue to do that, at first that ice kind of reforms a bit. Then you bring up some more and it melts, and then you go get more and it reforms. Eventually, after doing that for a period of time, that ice turns to a gas, and it's not going to be reforming once again. Now, this kind of exercise may take a minimum of 100 days of practice to get that kind of change where it is permanent, where it's not that every time you start breathing you've got to open those gates. There are about 12 to 14 of those points along those two pathways that are most important in opening. We start with Hui In at the base of the torso. We go to the tip of the tailbone, as I said. We go to Ming Men, the gate of life. We go to the middle of the back, Ling Tai, the spirit tower. We move up to Da Shui, the large vertebrae, at the top of the back and the base of the head. We move up to Feng Fu. This is like the spirit hall, the hall of wind. where we need to relax that, where the spine goes into the skull. Middle of the top of the head, byway, meeting or gathering of 100. We move down the front between the eyebrows, what is typically looked at as being the third eye, yin tang, the hall of illumination or the hall of mirrors. We go down to the top of the mouth, and that's where we end the governing channel, Duma. So to connect it to Renma, the conception channel, we place the tip of the tongue on the top of the mouth. That's like flipping that switch. You go into your bedroom at night, and the way you get your lights to work is you flip that switch on. It completes the circuit, the pathway is complete, the energy can flow. So most people, again, the tongue just rests in the bottom of their mouth most of the time. It touches the top when they eat, it touches the top when they speak, but most of the time it's just kind of laying flat in the bottom of the mouth. We want to learn to keep it at the top of the mouth so it only comes off the top when you eat, when you are drinking, when you're speaking. Otherwise, you keep the lights on and the energy flowing. It moves from there to Tiantu, heavenly precipice at the hollow at the base of the neck. It goes down to Zhongwan, the middle cavity, in front of the middle energy center in your body, the heart area. Goes down to Qi Hai, the Sea of Qi, about 2 inches or so below the navel in the center of your body, and then back down to the base. So you work at learning to open all of those gates, again, over repeated practices until they are relatively permanently opened, at which point it is suggested that you really aren't as likely to even get that sick anymore. Health, vitality, longevity are going to be easier to accomplish when you've got that energy flowing properly. That energy flowing properly on those two vessels are now making it possible for that energy to go into the other systems within your body and provide the energy they need, the balance they need, and thus improving your health and vitality.
Okay, so now that's a lot to take in.
Yes,
especially for people who are just watching a fishing video and you're like, dang, that's a lot. So could you demonstrate someone? So my first of all, it's very windy, so I'm sorry if it's like,
Yep.
I'll try my best on the background noise.
Yep.
So my very first Kung Fu lesson, Sifu taught me how to breathe. That's it. I stood there, shoulders back, breathe. That's all we did. My last jiu-jitsu lesson was how to breathe. It's very important. Could you teach some of us, even the fishing guys, just how to breathe real quick? Just a first basic way to do it.
First thing I would share, and I'm gonna, so if we're standing, and again, doing that in a boat's a little tricky too. The first thing we wanna do is have our feet about shoulder width apart, and we wanna have the feet parallel to each other. We don't want one or either, both feet, turned angled out, angled in. We want them relatively straight. We want the feet, again, about shoulder width apart when they are parallel to each other. Then we want a slight bend in the knees, just a slight bend in the knees, and we lean forward. I'm going to use this here at this point to lean forward and back, bending from the ankle. In essence, what we want to do is forward until the weight's off of the heels. Most human beings, when they stand with their weight over the heels, and that's poor posture. It isn't good for the body. It isn't good for the health and vitality within. That puts most of the pressure of maintaining your stance on the skeletal system. And it's why as we get a little bit older, we have usually so much problems with our knees, our hips, our back, because all of that is put upon those junctions, those joints, as the skeletal system assumes the responsibility. So by taking the weight off the heels, we move it forward over a point just behind the ball of the foot in the middle of the foot. That's going to be the center of our point of gravity. So we don't want to be standing as we think is straight, which would be perpendicular to the earth. The body has to have a little bit of an angle forward, actually, that weights forward. Our body is straight. It's just not perpendicular to the earth. So we have the weight forward off the heels, knees bent just a little bit. The tailbone has to be tucked. So we tuck the tailbone under, kind of like doing a pelvic thrust, and then we bring the shoulders forward over the hips. We tuck the chin just a bit so that in essence, that's holding the head so that the crown of the head is straight. It's not chin down, it's not chin up, not to the side. You want the head straight. Then we want to have what we call the 5 hollows balanced. In the bottom of each foot, we want that arch to be balanced. So we curl the toes a little bit, kind of like gripping the earth. We also do the same with the hands. Each hand is held like palming a volleyball-sized orb. So it's not stiff, like it's scared. It's also not limp like a wet cloth. It's in essence holding or palming a volleyball-sized, a basketball-sized orb. So the hands are hollowed, the feet are hollowed, and then the chest needs to be hollowed. The chest is hollowed as if you're just initiating a hug. So it's not rounding the shoulders and the back, it's relaxing the shoulders and letting the chest hollow. From this point, we also want the head to be held as if it's floating on the surface of the water, or as if a master puppeteer up above has one of those strings attached and is lifting or pulling our head upward. Simultaneously, the rest of the body is sinking down into the earth. So we would say if your head's floating on the surface of the water, it's like your feet are sinking into the sand beneath the sea. Now, these are all pieces that are important before you even start your real breathing exercises, because the physical body, the external, has to be in the proper position first in order to execute the internal work at all. It's like a hose in the backyard. If you have that hose and it's wrapped around things, it's crimped, the car's parked on it, you're not going to be able to get that energy to flow through it as easily. So you've got to align externally first so that the internal energy, the water, can flow through and then do work. You can then use that water to fill the pool, wash the car, spray plants, grass, whatever. But if it's not properly aligned, you can't get that energy out of it. So physically, you have to establish the proper external coordinates, the external balances first, before you can then touch on the internal. Now we're going to work on the internal, that breathing. Tip of the tongue lightly touching the top of the mouth, and mind and breath become one. You slowly inhale through the nose and exhale through the nose, inhaling and exhaling, listening to the breath, feeling yourself breathe, experiencing breathing. And then mind leads the breath. Now we want to breathe to the lower abdomen. So as we inhale, the lower abdomen expands. As we exhale, that lower abdomen contracts. So you get an inhalation, and I'm exaggerating these a bit, and an exhalation. And you're mindfully inhaling and exhaling, mind leading the breath into this lower cinnabar field. That's the simplest and easiest way to begin to learn to breathe. Now, you can do that seated as well, but again, even if you're seated, you need to keep track of some of those concepts, like your feet should not be crossed, they should be parallel to each other, they should be about shoulder width apart, your back should be straight, you don't lean back into a chair, you have to sit. One of my instructors told me once that the back of the chair is for hanging your coat. So those of us who kind of end up kind of like this, well, anyway, back straight. So the shoulders are above the hips. And then there are different hand postures you can use that also help to balance that energy. One basic one, if you're sitting, is to touch the thumb to the tip of the little finger, ring finger. Another is to touch it to the tip of the middle finger. This connects the lungs and the pericardium. So we have lungs, large intestines, pericardium, triple warmer, small intestines, and heart. We connect the thumb, which is the lungs, with the pericardium. In that posture, we try to have the other fingers relatively straight. So we don't want them curled, bent. So then, if they're rested here, we work on our breathing to the abdomen, mindfully leading that breath, mindfully expanding and contracting that lower abdomen in this position. If you want to sit cross-legged and don't know how to do the full lotus or half lotus, you just cross your legs beneath you as you're sitting. Put the left in front of the right. that also helps to balance the energies within the body. So that's another way you can do it even seated and not have to be standing in that other position.
Guys, I can blame it on the wind. I can blame it on Sifu's chi. His energy was just too intense for the fish.
Okay.
I don't know. It fell apart today, but we'll catch him next time, and we'll catch you next time on Fighting the Fish.
What you say? Dragon and tiger show.
I'm gonna hurt myself. I can't do it. Sure, it'll look good.
All right, all right.
Okay, so high, low, down, up, across, up, over, around. Yep.
Oh, I didn't know there was that.
Okay. High, low, down, up, side, sweep over, and around. Yeah, he's putting it.